We are in the midst of death, destruction, dismemberment, and, well, disheartening realizations that as much of a apex predator as the kindred are in the rest of the worlds, that there is yet another apex level predator, and two of those predators are near enough at hand to breathe in the delicious, odoriferous scent of the dead flesh the kindred inhabit. In other words, are there any questions, suggestions, or hypotheses, or corners we need to round off?
I just want to clarify, one of them is dead, right? Or dying?
Dying. The weight of the human soul, while only 21 grams, is an immediate difference in weight. Having that dissipate from that corpse means that that body is all but completely dead. But to add to Lucio's, not you the player, but Lucio's worry and concern, Sophia's abode, Sophia's haven, much like the shelter, is a pit of depravity when it comes to spirits and souls crossing the boundary. Sophia's haven is in the midst of a manifestation of such a level that they are able to accost and all but manhandle another such apex predator. So a vacant apartment in this housing shortage and during this housing crisis, well, you know, any port in a storm.
Jesus Christ, a spirit in a lupine body.
I mean, it's a thing.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
What's the worst that can happen?
Oh, yeah. Let's find out, shall we?
Duh.
Hello.
Hello.
Greetings and salutations. Good evening.
That was in response to what's the worst that can happen.
Yes. So, without exaggerating or without underplaying it, the coterie is in a fight for its life. Each of the individuals in the coterie are within arm's distance of something that can, or closer to something that can rearrange their existence. That's where we left with the preview of what was hinted at with the corpse lying at, well, nearest Lucio's feet. The wolf that he managed to blast into the next life. And as ever, and as always, the clock is always ticking. There is a timer, if you will, before some enterprising spirit gathered to protect their domain, gathered to protect what they have, gathered to keep what little bit of connection to life exists for them whole and in one piece. But while those thoughts are being considered and mulled over and courses of actions are being plotted and planned, I'd like to thank you all. You have no idea how much I've looked forward to tonight and how much I look forward to play as a whole, but especially this week. A small heads up for the real life things that are hanging over in the distance. I am responsible for 2 locations presently for this particular employer. My schedule is a mess, and there's a way we're supposed to do things that he did not when assigning me the second location. So because of me politely and very poignantly chewing him out over that, today One day before the schedule is supposed to go into play, he makes a surprise visit while I'm at the second location. And he informs me that he'd like to talk with me. And he decides that now is the time for me to assume responsibility for the busiest of our 3 locations. Of the 11 stores, of the 11 locations, of the 11, all part of 3 different franchises, this is the busiest location. It is right next to a tourist trap, and it's on one of the major roads. It's the sort of location that makes people rethink their career choices. It's the sort of location that makes people decide, you know what, it's better if I don't look for a promotion. I don't want to ever do this job or be responsible for this sort of thing ever again. And in our current job market, with people quiet quitting, and worse, just deciding not to show up because word of mouth, Glassdoor, and what have you informs them of company culture and all of those things. He has decided, with one day before the schedule is released, to tell me, oh, hey, we need your help. We would like you to take this 3rd location. So yes, I am looking forward to this mini vacation, this mini week off, this reprieve and escape from reality for a moment. And you all have been very clear, vital parts of that. Play is always important. Play therapy is not just for kids, but it's also for us adults. And what you've all wrought here is central to all of my other play. It is central to all of my other chances to get away from reality for a few hours, for a few moments, for hell, a few seconds, as the case may be sometimes. And I want to thank you all so very much. It really does mean a lot to me. So from the bottom of my heart to the top of my mind, thank you, and thank you. And without further delay, without much further ado, this is officially Soup City Sins. That just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? We are in the midst of our season 16, episode 6. Paralyzed gestures without shape or color. It would not be an exaggeration in the least to say that for all of the horrors that the coterie has wrought on the world around them, for all of the traumas they've inflicted on the kindred that traipse through their existence, for all of the many horrors that they've unleashed or destroyed, that this moment of pause is one of the most tense. Lucio is hanging on to his existence by the thinnest, frailest thread ever. Miriam is not a fighter. She is the very definition of an artiste. What is important to her is the continued opportunity for life. Hestia, even with all of the decline as far as where they stand ethically and morally, underneath it all has been an angel in demon's clothing. Even now, with their existence on the line, they are part of the owner of the responsible entity that has saved an innumerable number of human lives. And it cannot be said or stressed anymore to the point that yes, in truth, when all the chips are down, for all the many combative moments they have existed in, they are not a fighter. And lastly, but not leastly, is Sophia. For all of their bravado, for all of their vanity, for all of the refusal to be viewed or treated as less in any physical engagement, they are the least threatening, least capable of individuals. While yes, they may damn your soul to hell several 100,000 times over and force you into servitude to their will and whim in a physical altercation, that's what they make ghouls for after all. And standing in the midst of these gathered kindred, standing in the midst of this coterie, is an engine of destruction that has decided to raise the game. Gone is the muscle-bound, clearly athletic, feminine form that was there. In its place is a blood-covered, hoary, hairy mass of vengeance given leash. Vengeance against every living thing. Everything that had once been living. Because while physically lupine are the definition of not a joke, they don't only combat things physically. They battle and war against forces legion. Physical, spiritual, and their own emotional issues, being cut off, cast adrift from life while protecting it in the most martial of ways possible. And that is what is being unleashed. That is what has materialized through the shredding, tearing, ripping of all semblance of humanity. The muscles torn with dark, blood-soaked fur poking through, rupturing through, exploding out in a wash of wet viscera. Torn skin and muscles, the bones broken, rearranged and reformed right before their eyes. And it is the coterie's action. It is the coterie's opportunity to put thought to physical form. But know this, there is no doubt in that creature's mind that it will feast on the dead flesh that you all are inhabiting before the night is over.
Hess looking at the situation, kind of realizing that the other two are probably in trouble. She is going to blur into action again and go swing in for the fences with her poisoned meat mallet.
That sounds vaguely inappropriate.
Right. It's fine.
So hastened into action. We know what Hesh is intending. What is everyone else intending?
Lucio is still prioritizing just unloading every single silvered slug he has into this thing. But can he do that while trying to summon the arms of Ahriman?
Yes. Yeah. It means that he does not have any opportunity or chance to do anything more than plant himself, pull the trigger, and tap into that endless maw of darkness, that essence of death. He will be rooted, he will be planted, he will effectively have a defense value of 0.
Ooh,
It is literally him going full out, full auto, and no semblance of retreat. So whatever his attack roll, whatever his most offensive action is in that moment will be his basis.
Remind me, this thing was like just attacking Lucio in the last round, right?
Right.
So it's right in front. Okay, that's a bad idea then. So Lucio is unloading the shells into this thing while backing up towards the to the safe room.
All right, sounds like a plan.
Call it a tactical retreat, shall we say? Covering fire.
No, understandable. But just remember, dear Colonel, we are not retreating. We are attacking in the opposite direction.
We are advancing backwards.
Miriam, Sophia.
Well, I guess I will level. Was it a shotgun that you gave me, Lucio?
It was. It's a very large.
Or rather, preloaded for me.
Yes.
Fabulous. I guess I'm going to attempt to shoot the thing in front of me and back away. Not necessarily slowly.
All right, sounds like a plan. And Sophie.
So, what do I know about this skull that they've been hacky-sacking around the room?
It is a reliquary. It is effectively the closest approximation of what it is there was a small person. You're not sure whether they were in life a child or otherwise vertically challenged. They existed in a time where psychological issues were treated as possession. They were treated as demonic in nature. They had confirmed, based on testimony and rumors spread from that time, over 75 different spirits residing in them. Their exorcism took place over the course of 3 months, and at the end of that exorcism, there were 4 dead priests, 1 hampered knight of the realm, and several villagers who could not stop crying. They were put to destruction at that time, most definitive way possible. They burned them in the town square.
Well, it seems like there's a reason that I have this thing, so I will scoop it up and use summon spirit on it.
I mean, good idea. All right, so that being the case, Sophia, you're gonna roll first. Your actions will happen last because Hestia does have blink. Lucio and Miriam, your actions will be happening directly behind Hestia. So the order of roll is Sophia, Hestia, Lucio, and Miriam. Hestia, your roll is strength plus melee, and the outcome of your damage will be bonused by your thaumaturgy for your balls caress. While that's happening, Lucio, Miriam, you will be rolling. Lucio, you're retreating tactically while firing. That's going to be at this close range, unfortunately, it's going to be your strength plus firearm -1. And Miriam, yours is going to be your dexterity and firearms. And I'll roll the careful, considerate, violent Lupine who is deciding to just rend you all from this existence.
Okay, so I just rolled the strength and melee and then add the thaumaturgy roll to it, or
No, that'll be added as a plus to your outcome.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So I just rolled the strength and melee, and then you'll add the other.
Yes.
I would like to risk a blood search.
Yeah, we like that. Tempt the beast.
And what was I rolling?
You're gonna be rolling summon spirit. You definitely need a complete success, so you need a DC 3 for what you are attempting, because you are just summoning you're summoning what may exist inside this skull. Don't want to give too much away.
Okay, so I got a 3 if I'm remembering right. Before I rolled a 5, so that gives it a total of 8.
Everyone's tempting their beast, and nothing has come of it as of yet, which is a good thing.
Right?
Statistically, that's a horrible thing, but in the moment, it's a very, very good thing. Well, now. All right. So we have. Before deciding the outcome of the scene, Miriam would you like to utilize a willpower.
I think that might be a good idea. Yeah. Well, I mean, no, it wouldn't matter. The hunger die won't change. But
You still have two normal dice that can be changed.
Yes.
true. Let's see.
And you have the potential for a crit.
Right? Crazy. It's the...
And lo and behold. Oh, wait, that was Sophia.
That was
not me.
I was like, I have a lot of willpower. Maybe I should use one and make that better.
So, the coterie has existed in this state of normalcy where impossible is the expectation. It is the only outcome that has proven itself to be reliable for them. The most unimagined potential is what they always stretch and reach towards. And while the gossip and rumor pertaining to the shelter can be seen as exaggerated, it is somehow more true because of the many instances where they literally scoff in the face of fate's machinations. The lupine leaps, full on, full press, all body towards the most visible and clearly reachable kindred. Even backing away tactically, Lucio is within the arc of their attack. Even backing away, Miriam is well within the range to catch, well, those hands. Blurring in, Hestia is there, dancing through raindrops, or in this case, to be perfectly honest, solid shell silver shot from both shotguns as the world explodes around her. Her mallet striking true as Joan there. At the exact moment that Hestia makes contact with the lupine form, charging Lucio and Miriam to sunder from this world two more corpses. The skull in Sophia's hands erupts. Shards of bone fly forth as the manifestation of the various jagglings and incarnate that possessed this small person all of those decades ago leap forward into the world, seeing its one true enemy. Because while kindred are manifestations of death and they are a void, they are not the enemies of spirits and souls that manifest from beyond the veil. Lupines, however, are. In fact, lupines have headed into those deep, dark, umbral spaces and did combat most foul against many, if not all, of those sorts of spirits and entities. As the wolf is struck by Hestia's meat cleaver, her meat tenderizer, her mallet, her hammer of God, the jagglings and spirits seek to take full hold and advantage of attacking from behind, up a blind spot, a revenge snipe. Oh yeah, they'll probably be defeated in the long run, but a final act of defiance, a final fuck you to the entirety of lupine kind. Doing so forces the lupine towards the ground, driving Hestia's hammer strike further into its skull as both Lucio and Miriam's shot lands true. Near center mass, upper and lower chest, bits and pieces of fur and what lies beneath splattering the ground behind them, barely missing the erupted skull pieces and Sophia. Nothing has ever ended so quickly for the coterie. Nothing so impossible has happened as quickly for the coterie. But it is yet again another sign of all of the many impossibilities that they've wreaked on the world. It is yet again another sign of the things that they can accomplish when operating together, even with singular drives. And as the corpse lands and you can hear the rending and tearing of flesh, even though there's nothing visible to those of you who cannot see the spiritual world, the lupine form starts to dissipate. The fur drops away, falls off, dying. The over-muscled form begins shrinking almost instantaneously, like an overinflated balloon suddenly popped. And for the first time, you all are hearing screams and grunts of pain that are not your causing, coming from the floor below you all.
Lucio would be aware that there were supposed to be 3 of them here, right? Was that how many figures he saw on the roofs?
Yep.
Okay. So, knowing that and assuming that's probably the last one, he's gonna rush down with the shotgun, assuming he's probably gonna load at least another shell or 2 on the way down there, just to make sure he has enough ammo, because he wants to finish this fight.
So as the body begins cooling by incremental degrees, microfractions of degrees to be perfectly honest, as quickly as the forces animating it have dissipated, it takes a little bit longer for the heat being generated to ebb away into nothingness. As Lucio takes off at a strange speed, considering how badly injured he is, what is it that everyone else is doing? Hearing those grunts and screams and cries of pain.
Hess looks up at Sophia. I know you don't want to leave here. I get it. We defended ourselves, but you do know what happens when you kill one lupine, right? It brings more. They're going to realize these 3 are dead and where they were heading, and they're going to send more. So what do you want to do about being here this evening?
She kind of has a look on her face that is one that's kind of equal amusement and equal snare or sneer. And she says, I want to prove that I will not be driven from my home by these dogs. Beyond that, I have to move some things, and then we'll burn the building.
Fair enough. Weird question. What's your birthday?
Why?
Just assuming me I'm a puzzle person. I found a puzzle and I'm pretty sure I need your birthday to answer that puzzle, so it's kind of itching at the back of my brain.
Perhaps now is not the time.
The moment the words escape Sophia's lips and travels that 762 feet per second to reach your ears, you are back in the van. You're back in the beast as it was called. You're looking at Alson yet again with a Sudoku from his pen pal, some anonymous person that he has made friends and associates with. Every town you go to, there you all are with him finding either an all-night internet cafe or him placing an ad via phone with the local newspaper and getting a response. These puzzles being presented to him by some unknown individual simply called P. And it's funny, didn't think about it at the time, but they're all vaguely Grecian. They're all vaguely pertaining to and in and around Illinois. You guys have passed by that flyover country several times over the last few months, over the last few years, but it's always pertaining to the land of Lincoln somehow. Either where was the first suburb, where were the suburbs invented, what does herbs and horta mean, what does, and so forth and so on. All various clues and fingers pointing towards the land of Lincoln. All. And there it was. Now is not the time, as you all made your way through the bar, as you all circled the wagons around Dizzy, as that kindred from out east finally got what he deserved, or was going to. And now you're back in Sophia's Haven. Now is not the time.
Shaking your head to clear the weird transient thing through time. She's fine. Yep. Okay. And then she walks towards the dying lupine, or the one that they first attacked, checking to see if there's any semblance of him still being alive, and if she is, she's going to dispatch him just to speed it along.
And Miriam, while this conversation and Lucio running off is happening, what is Miriam doing? As far as we are aware, as far as we know of Miriam, this is the first time that she's taken her life willingly. This is the first time where she actively took up martial arms against another entity. And while in that split second of horror, seeing this massive muscle and fur, certain feelings were engendered. Looking at the woman beneath it now, the woman who looks as if she has cosplayed a victim from every war that has ever happened to mankind. There's slashes and cuts. There are pieces of her torso missing, her pink lungs visible through the holes in her chest. The look of horror somehow frozen on her face. You know that it wasn't on purpose, but it looked as if she died reaching out towards you, one arm outstretched, and everything that was her or is her no longer there.
She would probably kind of stare at the gun in her hands for a moment and then kind of drop it like it were a snake. And just kind of stare for a minute, because what the hell? Clearly, she can rationalize it as it was this person or me. And we'd already seen what it could do otherwise. But yeah, she's clearly unhappy and probably a little distressed.
question is, can she keep it together? The question is, in this moment, with all of those thoughts bombarding and bouncing off the inside of her skull, is she attempting to maintain a semblance of the stoic charm that she's presented to the coterie thus far?
Of course.
Excellent. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your composure and either subterfuge or performance? And Sophia, Hesia, what is your combined average of your wits and either subterfuge or awareness?
I've got a 7 wits and awareness.
Yeah, I've got 3 wits, 3 awareness, and 2 subterfuge. So I guess if you average the 3 of them, it's 3. Or 2 point something.
Yeah. So that, Miriam, is your DC. If you receive, if you scored 3 or higher, you can effectively pull it off. If not, there is no way that these witty, intuitive individuals would not notice.
Well, there's 3.
There's a saying that is always darkest before the dawn, always quietest before the moment of explosion of the world. And this is that moment for Miriam. There's outwardly a manifestation of calm, consideration, thoughtful introspection. But there's nothing betraying the volatility of those slightly depressive thoughts. You have never actively pursued the idea of taking your life. And while intellectually rationalizing it, even the ghost of emotions will what they want. And in this moment, there is that very real fact. You killed another living individual. You took the life of something vibrant and bright. You took the life of something significantly far more alive than any other being you have ever come across. Even now in death, those corpses nearest your feet are warmer than most people are on a standard basis, on a standard touch. There's heat wafting off of them of such volume that it is very, very difficult to not crouch down and rub your hands together over the fire of their warmth. And there is the matter of this particular corpse, this particular woman, seeming to have died reaching out to you, seeming to have died beseeching you for help. You know that is not true, and her outstretched arm was intending to rend you from this world, but there's the knowledge of it, and then there's the emotion of it. And in this moment, the emotion of it, based on the way the body landed, her arms outstretched, her face staring towards you, it is hard to not fall prey to those emotions. Speaking of falling prey to those emotions, rushing down steps, 2, 3 at a time, bounding the corner, the firearm, the shotgun racked, loaded, and ready for action, you follow the sounds of torment and expect to find slaughter. You expect to find the scent of blood. You expect to find carnage. And it's so much worse than that. So much worse than the for you, grown accustomed sight of a human or a kindred rent limb from limb, pieces missing, and their viscera, their life juices spilling all over the place. No, it's far worse than that, because hovering 4 to 5 inches off the ground is a almost red-headed woman who is athletically built. She's wearing a flat jacket, cargo pants. You can see the tattoos up and down her, clearly put together piecemeal, because there's no, there's no commonality amongst them. It is clearly based off of feelings. This is someone who, it's a birthday, I'm gonna go get a tattoo. It's a small hallmark in my life, I'm gonna go get a tattoo. Hey, I just got the coffee that I wanted, it didn't spell my name, I'm gonna go get a tattoo. It is that sort of joy of the art, that vibrancy of life that is written all over their skin. There are also marred tattoos from various combat incidents, because the tattoos are there and clearly broken or slashed through or shot through, and the wounds upon their skin tell its own story, almost as in-depth as the tattoos that you are able to see. But what makes it worse? All those signs of life, all those signs of vibrancy, and the body is being tossed to and fro, inches this way, inches that way, the head snapped left, right, forward and back, the arms twisting and turning in angles and dimensions they were never meant to, and the concordant sounds of the bones shifting, breaking, reknitting as what this person is, what this lupine is being violated in such depth and such detail that for all of Lucio's calm, good determination, he knows that it would be a kindness to end their existence. There is no way that spirits able to manifest with such vociferousness would ever relinquish their control. Hell, you've been host to spirits riding along with you. Your will has kept them at bay, but just barely. And even that has left a stain. This many entities taking over, calling out, experiencing the few fleeting microseconds of living again. There's no way they'd leave. There's nothing and no one that you know of strong enough to force them, to keep them from following along behind that lupine for the rest of their existence, seeking every opportunity to once more make them a home.
Lucio is about to make a very deliberate decision. Lucio is going to set down the shotgun, and he is going to, just for the sake of assurance, he's gonna throw up prowess, and he's going to blood surge strength, and he's going to go for the neck.
Just so that those
very.
Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, he is very hungry. He's gotten a taste of lupine blood. It is delicious. And like you said, they need to be put out of their misery anyway.
That's not the one Sophia spit on, is it?
No, this is the one that is being, that your ghosts are attacking.
That's very good for you.
There's no need to roll an actual attack roll. The spirits are too busy having a field day. The lupine is too busy attempting to defend themselves very poorly. It is, if you've seen those nature documentaries with the whelp lion having separated itself from its pride, being surrounded by hyenas. And no, not in a standoff with just one or two. No, surrounded by hyenas. Where the moment that it takes a lunge forward to defend itself, another is nipping at its rear, taking its tail, its back paws, nipping at the soft, warm deliciousness that is its innards, its entrails, its guts, and every attempt of it to defend itself opens itself up for another attack. That is what the body and this lupine is dealing with. And while it is struggling against forces infernal, while it is struggling against the sheer manifestation of spiritual hate and enmity towards lupines, Lucio leaps the few feet between himself and it, latching on like a leech, burrowing his head into its soft, all too pliable neck, wrapping his arms around it, pulling the body closer to him, somehow managing to exist in the same space at the same time. And there is a unforeseen consideration. Even in the throes of being racked and ruined by these spirits, the kiss has certain abilities. The foremost being the pleasure that it instills. And while pleasure exists and lives in our mind, there are physical responses to being pleased, from the smile, the quirking of a brow, the nervousness that has you sometimes unable to sit still with being so pleased, to be so pleasured. Those are happening amidst the tearing and breaking and reforming that the spirit's possession are causing. And her blood is heady with fear and anger and rage, and mixing them all together is the lightning rod of pleasure. All of those bright lights in the top of her mind going off, even as she is fighting for her very existence. Even as she is clawing, hanging on by the thinnest of threads. And in those microseconds, nanoseconds, where she's being bombarded with all of these impulses, all of these feelings, and losing control of her form, the spirits who have taken turns and fighting for control within her are experiencing this pleasure as well. And while upstairs, Miriam is looking on the results of this life as a kindred, and while Hestia is reliving a moment that has far more weight than would be easily considered, and Sophia is coming to grips with the fact that yes, this place is now a beacon, and for the next few decades, next few years, lupines who find themselves in the area can become quite curious, because there is a stain that remains in the spirit world each and every place a the lupine has died. There's a manifestation, a pillar, a tower erected in the spirit world, a beacon for those places where lupines have died. And lupines didn't just die here, they were slaughtered. You all decimated them and turned these warriors of Gaia's will into so much dead, desiccating flesh. But all's fair in love and war, and you all tend to love a war, so here we are. Lucio, I do need you to roll a Resolve Composure DC 2 as you end this lupine's life. As you take everything from her and the countless legion of spirits who are invading her.
Are we treating this like the unspent willpower, or is it just the attributes?
Oh, just the attributes.
Okay.
You should not be able to, and most kindred would not be able to, but you have drunken deeply of some of the rarest vintages possible. This heady life that you consume is filled with so much vibrancy. It makes the world a brighter place just in having it. Those self-recriminations that you had earlier fall away under the light of its balance, because that's what it is. It is the almost complete and total balance of all of the dark thoughts that you've had thus far. It is the opposite end of the spectrum. It is life for life's sake. It is life because it knows that it will get better. It must get better. Just the fact that you are able to continue means that it is already better. It is hard not being giddy. It is hard not losing yourself to that inebriating understanding that even in death there is hope, even in death there is light, even in death there is brightness to be had and shared, and yet you're able to withstand it. You're able to not go spiraling out of control. You are able to push all of that light down and force the darkness out without losing yourself to it. And once again, seemingly as if it is in fact their hobby, seeming as if it is their avocation and their dream job, the coterie is now left with additional corpses to dispose of or find a safe place to ensure that they're not found. 6 corpses. 3 still scrabbling and scratching at the ground, trying to get to something, bits and pieces. You got a pinky fingers moving itself along the ground like a worm trying to get to the lupine's body. You got teeth which are rolling over themselves towards the body, towards the lupine that is laying on the center of the floor. You have Silvio's still rictus cold form attempting to hold on and crush the bones of the lupine as you stand watching. And there's still corpses to dispose of. It is what the coterie does after all. What is it that everyone is doing?
Lucio will be returning upstairs with the body of the lupine he just ate. And just to clarify, is he 0 hunger now?
He is in fact 0 hunger and 1 level less of aggravated damage.
Oh.
I assume my zombies are too structurally damaged to be of any use at this point.
Yes and no. It's not completely so. They are still attempting to attack their bits and pieces. And if you only knew a Samich who could perhaps sew them together or meld them back into a semblance of their form, they'd keep right at it.
Only our Zamitsi could do that. Be better, Miriam. Well, as they're not going to be able to move things for me, I guess I will relinquish their existence. That way, at least they're not crawling around, leaving stains on the carpet, eating the table, or anything like that.
Everyone believes that the world will end in a whimper. Not a bang, not a conflagration of flame, just a whimper. Everyone too over it, too done with it, and it just sighs into nothingness. You all get an opportunity to realize what that may exist like, because as the bodies cease moving, there is an audible, though from no particular location, exhalation of breath. And though there's no actual statement, there's actually no voice, there's the feeling of sure thing.
Yeah, we'll find you a new body. We'll figure this out.
Well, that wasn't creepy at all. But, again, lupines will be drawn by the deaths of the other lupines, and we killed like 3 of them. And they were already coming here because of the thing with the power, so probably not a good idea to stay. What is it that you need moved? Do you have a car that we can put the stuff in so we can get the hell out of here?
Sophia will make a call to whoever normally cleans these messes up for them. Which I know in some part is Silvio, but he must call somebody to move the shit out of here, so...
You do have his master phone, as it were, with more than a few contacts for cleaning. You've never seen someone so well connected with the cleaning industry. There are maids and all manner of house crew listed, from painters, reupholsterers, carpet cleaners, floor cleaners, waxers, detailers, finish carpenters, master craftsmen, woodworkers, and an entire slew of upholsterers. Not just reupholsterers, but just upholsterers, period. You build furniture and they come in and they make sure that you have the right fabric, and it is, without a doubt, the hub of Angie's List. It is the equivalent of having access to an entire arm of trade.
Well, there must be someone in there that disposes of bodies. The rest of it I can worry about later.
And because you know how Silvio thought, the fact that there is a number to a church in Dalton that you know who is the most capable of all of the trades listed, of all the tradesmen and women that are in that phone. That number to that church stands out.
I assume that's the home of our Somdi friend who was angry at me.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, let me give him a call, because there are some fresh bodies here that maybe he can overlook his enmity towards me and come collect some resources that he may put to use.
It is a very short conversation. If you hadn't had a conversation with him previously, you'd assume that it was simple, straightforward, perfunctory, skilled, standard business. But knowing how voluminous his speech was on the previous instances, and knowing how sociable, even in his enmity, he could be, the fact that it is such a short and to the point conversation lets you know that while he is absolutely beside himself with grief, that there's still a business mind there. Arrangements are made. Things will be taken care of. They'll use the key provided for them, and everything will be put away as necessary. Hearing this conversation, Miriam, Hestia, Lucio, you are easily amused with how much like ordering a pizza it is. It's not the new, track your delivery driver app sort of ordering a pizza. No, this is the, late 70s all the way to early 2000s calling the pizza place up the street that happens to know your order before you make it. This is the we deliver 2 pepperonis there every other Friday, or this is it's gonna be a party, so you want your usual 15 pies. Of course, you got 5 veggie, your 5 pepperoni, your 2 sausage, and then your 3 cheese, and they're recounting the order as if they know you, because over a number of months, a number of years, they come to know your address. And that's what listening to the conversation is like. It very much is Sophia ordering her usual.
I feel like that's expect from her, to be so used to this kind of stuff.
And also, I have a coupon.
That very much is the spirit of the conversation. That very much is, thanks to the preparedness and connections of Silvio, the standard. That number that this call is originating from has a certain reputation that is, being fulfilled. And as the phone call ends, leaving you all alone, knowing that you all need to get to Union Station, you need to get to Milwaukee, and yet there's still bodies to be cleaned, and that's going to happen. But in the moment, in the pressing moment, you all remembered a vision of 4, not 3. There were only 3. Your premonitions of what lay on the horizon was 4. And while there's no time to worry about that other shoe dropping, there's still the need to get to Union Station, to get to the livery, to get to the helicopter, to make it to Milwaukee, because you have an unavoidable meeting with the Elder Grossi.
Oh wait, I thought that wasn't supposed to happen until the next night, because we were making all those phone calls and everything before the wolves happened. The night before we were supposed to leave, right?
Yes. You seem to forget how late in the evening it is. It is past the point where it is considered night. It is considered AM. It is very, very real and close that the night, as you knew it, is almost elapsed, which is the reason for your initial rush and Sophia's rush to meet her neighbors. With the evening ending and there not much time, the most pressing matter is getting to Union Station. But to do that, you have to survive the remainder of the night.
Do we have enough time to get settled in somewhere else that direction?
And there we are, the crux of it all. Death comes for us all. Death is always hounding your steps. Death is never far from the space where the coterie exists. And bloodstained, splattered, burned by the sun, wounded internally as well as externally. Time is the factor. What are you attempting? Where are you heading? What do you have in mind?
Is Hess's downtown apartment closer to Union Station, or are we closer at Sophia's?
You're closer at Sophia's. Unless there's another Rogers Park haven that you all have access to.
Okay, so Hess is going to look at the others. So, I know this might be really morbid, but hear me out. The downstairs neighbors are already dead. They're not going to need their apartment. We don't want to stay in this one because skylights, werewolves, all that good shit. Should we use theirs just to sleep the night or the day, and then we leave from here tomorrow to get to Union Station? I mean, that way we don't.
We have until sunrise.
There's not much time. Let me gather some things.
I mean, they probably got a bath and stuff downstairs. We can get all cleaned up and change clothes.
That's a good point. We can use that to clean up, but I don't think it's a good idea to stay. There was a lot of gunfire. There was a lot of action going on here. Lupines or not, the police are sure to be coming here in minutes, if not sooner.
Who would have called them? My downstairs neighbors are murdered in my room. Well, that's not true. There's a bit of one there, a bit of one over there.
I think you underestimate how loud a shotgun is. And we fire many rounds.
Perhaps you underestimate how expensive these apartments are.
She got a point.
Well, if you looking to Sophia, he says, at the end of the day, we are at your beck and call, so whatever your decision is, we'll have to follow it. Regardless, we won't be staying in this apartment, so what do you want us to salvage before we leave?
Well, I can say that my myriad of visitors who have come here and opened fire at Silvio or other things, no one has ever called the police. However, what I'll need to come back and catalog things. There are many things I need from here. But for now, I need the things I will need in Milwaukee, which are very few, just clothing.
Very well. But is there anything that you wouldn't want stolen?
I wouldn't want anything stolen.
I think what we're going to have to do is put the majority of things we can fit in the safe room and lock the safe room back up before we go, and then just go downstairs.
Fair enough. Sounds like a plan to me.
So then Sophia will pick out an outfit or two to throw in some garment bags, and then she will wave her arms and point at, I need that, here's a box of feathers, and I need this, and that book there.
Yeah, so that's what I guess we're doing. We're making short work of packing those things, but at the same time, Hestia brings up, so random question, and I know I keep asking those, but what was the other lupine doing downstairs while we were killing their friends?
They were sealing the exits.
So if they were sealing the exits, how are we going to get to the other apartment? We have to unseal the exit?
I think they were blocking the exit.
As a storyteller, they were actually like boarding it up, right? Lucia would have seen that. Or blocking them.
They were actively blocking them. But everyone has an occult of 2 or higher, correct? Or a blood sorcery of 2 or higher, correct?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
You all know that the world that you exist in, this purgatorial space between living and death, that with magic, it operates very similar to computer technology. To get to the internet, you have to open up a window. That window works both ways. So, a lupine, another member of this world that you exist in, knows that the only way to bar something as preternatural as itself and yourself is to seal both the physical and metaphysical ways out. The problem with doing such a thing in such a space is that opening that window to access, to make sure that that space is barred, opens a 2-way path, which is how the Legion of Souls were able to interact so directly. But it also means that they had opened that pathway. And they were busy doing something which left them exposed.
Oh yeah, Lucius would definitely mention that part. It seems that Sophia's spirits were assaulting them by the time I found them.
So we might want to close the circle before we go doing anything else, because heaven forbid previously dead lupines become zombie lupines full of spirits.
The moment the words tumble out of your lips, you hear a howl in the distance. You feel the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end, because you are now alone in an empty field, under a moonless sky, in the dark. And you know that out there are wolves, not just a wolf, not just 2. There are wolves large enough to swallow homes that exist out there in the dark. And you are far enough away from your cave and away from every semblance of fire that might keep them at bay.
Is Hestia hallucinating?
No, I heard it too.
was definitely a thing.
Looking around, like, what the absolute fuck? Okay, so are we all seeing this weird field thing that I'm seeing right now? I'm in a field. Are you in a field?
You guys are back. You are still in Sophia's Haven. But the problem with Sophia's Haven is that it much like the shelter, is a center of activity, but unlike the shelter, there's no beacon fires, there's no boundary line. Sophia's Haven has become the place that it has been due to the actions of the living and the dead. You are out in the waste of the spiritual realm. Its manifestation in the spiritual realm is actually equal to the Dark Tower of Babel. It is a place built by the incoherence of discommunication. It is a place that threatened to break through the barriers of this world and assail the throne of God because of how many individuals have decided that that's what they deserve. All those individuals are spiritual. All those individuals were the no longer living and the never having lived, who have formed of this place a bastion, a tower, a place of power for themselves.
So do we know how to close this or stop this or make it? Because I don't like this whole situation of shifting back and forth through spaces. Nope. We need to. Okay, does Hess know enough to know at least a little bit how to try to reclose the door, or is that a little bit beyond her scope of things?
With everyone gathered, yeah, you guys can put your heads together and really easily come up with a way to at least forestall whatever it is in the offing. Unless, of course, one of you all would like to peek across the border and see exactly what might be happening in them. You know how enjoyable that is. How enjoyable that is.
I don't know if it'll work, but it's a shame. Oh wait, no, I do have knit the veil. Haha.
Lucio will put forth the idea. I can try taking a peek and seeing if we aren't alone.
Couldn't we just stab it with silver like we did with the wolves up there?
That depends on what exactly is coming for us.
My vote is still to slam it shut. Can't get to us if it's shut, and they can't get to us.
Does anyone know how to close this? Does anyone have any idea of how they can seal off this place?
She will shoot Lucio a really look.
What?
She will start pointing at things. I need powdered bone from there. I need a candle from there. I need...
Lucia will start gathering these materials for her wherever she points.
Salt. I'm guessing we need salt, right? Should I go get the salt?
Salt always works in supernatural.
I do not need salt for this. Powdered bone.
And as Lucio's gathering these materials, just to satisfy his own curiosity, he will turn on Oblivion Sight to see if he can identify what's going on around them, while still gathering the materials.
Okay. There is no doubt that the Lupines are protectors of this world and the next. They are warriors. They believe that the best defense is a good offense, to the point that they almost ensure their enemies, which are a multitude and multiplicity of beings, from kindred all the way up to higher ranking spirits of the other world. I was going to say underworld, but that's not exactly what it is. It's a world that is outside of our own. It is the essence of oblivion, where all of these spirits and souls end up falling into and hanging on to what existence they can. Some of them are able to exist by night in various places where the boundary between this world and the next are at its thinnest or torn open. However, because of their actions, because of how much they've damaged, destroyed, assaulted, assailed, and on occasion betrayed various spirits, various souls, and other entities, they've had to become even more martial when crossing over. Their deaths in this world act as beacon points in places of battle where spirits will take up arms, because they know that all hell has broken loose. There's a chance to escape and exist on this side of the veil. There's a chance for a brief fleeting moment to get their lives back. So as Lucio peeks, the best approximation as to what he sees is that link. It is the mounting of several armies, some working together, some working against every other army, as these souls who are already here prepare for what will come. And what will come is an army of lupine spirits and souls and those aligned with them to seek vengeance, to take back what they never held, to avenge the fallen, to, well, make a muck of things.
Oh, that is something that Lucio is absolutely going to share with Sophia, at least. Sophia, the spirits are gathering, and it looks like they're getting ready for whatever lupine spirits are coming. And it seems like there's a lot coming. Whatever you plan to do it as soon as you can.
Well, she will attempt to do what it is she can. She will tell the rest of them to go ahead and go. She'll hand a garment bag. She doesn't need any assistance for the ritual. If it fails, it's best that not everyone is here.
What about mirrors? Things like to slip through mirrors.
Mirrors. Like a match. Setting off Roman candles and fireworks. Those of you with a cult of 2 or higher immediately begin looking at the floor to ceiling windows. Those of you with a cult begin thinking of the bathroom with all of its shiny reflective surfaces. Those of you with the cult begin thinking of all of those polished to a high veneer blades, knives, swords, machetes, and axes in the armory.
Okay, so what are we thinking about them? Are we thinking that we need to get rid of those things, or are we thinking that they might be helpful?
Well, they say that the eyes are the windows of the soul, and there's nothing more reflective on the human body than the eye, the way that it glistens and holds light. But that aphorism also applies to the ability to see into other worlds or to visit other places. Oftentimes in most myths, there's a way to enter through a body of water or a shiny shield or reflective surfaces. And if a lupine was borrowing the physical way out, it would most assuredly leave its own back door to call on allies, to be able to escape, while nothing else might be able to walk out of those front doors or out of that elevator. It would be able to escape at any point it wanted or call in reinforcements.
I guess Hessia's gonna go mirror breaking.
And as Hessia heads off, which ritual was Sophia preparing for?
Knit the veil, which I don't think will actually work here, but she doesn't possibly know that. She's, grasping at straws here, but it's in Trails of Ash and Bone.
Yes. Okay, give me a quick second here. The veil is...
Page 174 in your guide.
So, while Hestia heads off to break things, what is everyone else attempting to do?
Lucio is still following Sophia's directive to help her, because right now, as far as he knows, she's the only one who knows how to stop what's coming.
Miriam was probably going to go destroy some glass too.
Well, Sophia directed everybody to get out down to the other apartment because she doesn't even know if this is going to work.
Alright, then Lucio is gonna try and corral everyone to go into the other apartment.
She is not an expert in lupine magic.
She is not. No one really is. And it's one of those situations where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Looking at the size of her penthouse, and while yes, she wants to be alone, if those reflective surfaces really are capable of travel and transport, there's no way that once she begins dabbling with the forces that she needs to tap into to seal this place, would she not in fact be outnumbered, outgunned, and alone? If she is alone, then they really vacate the premises before, and assuring that every reflective surface has been broken, sealed, blocked, covered. There's no percent chance that Sophia would not cease to be. The very apartment is a promise of what its height signifies. Being the penthouse, being the most powerful location in the building. It is filled with floor-to-ceiling windows. It has views of the lake as well as Rogers Park. It is, even for its time back during the 20s, was built to put forth a statement, and that statement is that here lies power. It was used as a party place and was a social center, but if even 1% of the rumors and belief, gossip, and the myths that they are tapping into were true, were real, are real, Sophia will be alone, slathered in A1 steak sauce, smelling of steak, when the lions come. And short of breaking every window and every bending and covering and painting over every surface, there is no way to accomplish such a thing in the time they have left them if they would like to alight safely to the neighbor's apartment. So there's a decision that must be made, a choice, a consequence-free choice, at least in this moment. Do they leave Sophia to her own devices, or do they stay? Does she order them, despite every bit of knowledge she has, to leave, or does she allow them to stay?
I mean, she's not going to force them to leave. She is just advised that it is in their best interest. Whatever decision they make from there is on them.
I mean, from Lucio's perspective, is he aware that this is a bad idea? He has an inkling, but he doesn't have the same amount of knowledge that Sophia does.
Well,
Tess wouldn't leave it up to Sophia to tell him why this is a bad idea. She'd be yelling, "They can sneak in through the reflections!"
and therein lies the crux. As those, I'm taking it that Sophia is all steam ahead with beginning to get the candle together. And is she outlining the edges of the penthouse and like walking before each window, scattering a few bits and pieces of powdered bone along the periphery of the penthouse, and then heading to the center to begin the rest of the ritual, i.e., getting ready to light the candle and make the roll and so forth and so on? Or is she standing waiting for everyone to leave?
There's no time for that. I gotta get on it so they can leave while I'm doing it, or they can not leave at all.
So in not every, but in the most populous version of dabbling with the mystical arts, i.e. supernatural, it's all about salt. It's all about purifying the area and making sure that nothing can get in. That is not actually how those things work. And watching it happen now, being live in that moment as Sophia is literally walking around the edges of the penthouse, scattering this fine powder that smells of graves. It's surprising how that scent that you attribute to something musty and dusty and slightly old is what bones smell like. It is the ground up essence of graveyards, of cemeteries. It doesn't have that moistness nor that slight hint of green to it, but it is that scent of old, gone, devoid of life. You're never able to put your finger on it before, but that is very much what these ground up powdered bones smell like. It just smells as if it is way back then happening right in front of you. And as she moves around the penthouse, outlining the boundary of the penthouse, she moves back towards the center, in the open center, because remember it has an open floor plan there on the first floor, as Hestia and Miriam are busily breaking mirrors and covering glasses and doing their best to make sure that nothing can sneak through, nothing can make it into this area. It gets quiet, even with the breaking glass. It gets silent, even with the hushed footfalls and rushed paces of Hestia and Miriam in the distance, as Lucio is looking toward from them to Sophia. And that feeling of the drums in the distance, signifying the barbarian horde preparing to sack Rome, gets louder and louder and louder, so the windows begin to reverberate and vibrate with a bass that's impossible from this height. There's no passing car with the sound system should be able to rattle the windows from where it is, but that's what the windows are operating like. Like, these windows have been designed to withstand storms from the lake. These windows have been designed to withstand the pressures of, well, city life for nearly a century. These windows are designed to be all but proof against every natural and some unnatural offenses, yet they're vibrating and reverberating with a bass that doesn't exist. And as Sophia raises the blade to prick herself for the candle with the iron needle, something begins oozing through the window. One slightly amorphous blob and blip at a time. And if it was just one window, as strange, as weird, as out of the ordinary, you may be able to mentally be okay with it, but it's most of the windows. This globular form sliding through, melting through, it seems. Sophia, would you be so kind as to go ahead and make your ritual roll now? And while that roll is happening, what is it everyone else is doing, watching this dark globular form oozing, melting through the windows around you?
Well, my initial reaction would be, kill it with fire. But then remembering that's probably a bad idea too.
Well, nothing beats a failure but a try.
Right.
Lucio is looking to Hestia now. Alright, Hes, you're more experienced with this than I am. What do we do?
Throw salt at it.
If only we had a rolled up newspaper.
Right.
Looked stunned for like 2 seconds, like, oh, now you're asking me? I don't know. Have you ever seen the movie The Ring? Maybe put the TV facing the other TV and it gets out of one TV and then back into the other TV. don't know. Powdered silver. Maybe we can sprinkle powdered silver, but I don't know if that's going to mess up her thing that she's doing. But we need to do something.
All right, I'll get the TV. Someone get the powdered silver.
I'm just going to go grab some table salt and throw it at it. It works in Supernatural. Why not?
So, TVs, salt, silver. As the globular form is running through, you all leave Sophia to stand and continue the ritual alone as she's pricking herself full of her vitae to flow upon the candle. Is there anything you all are doing besides rummaging through the drawers to find your needed implements for your attacks of choice?
No?
Occasionally keeping an eye on Sophia to make sure nothing is trying to kill her.
Yeah, that's gonna be a busy one.
At some point, she's just gonna give up looking for things and go stand just near Sophia enough to get to her. She has to grab her and run, but not in the way enough that if she needs to move her arms or whatever for whatever ritual she's doing, Hestia will be in the way. But she's just kind of refound her meat mallet from before and standing guard.
The globular forms are coalescing into hairy, not quite actual clawed appendages. You know that is not real, and you know that it is in fact a spiritual manifestation, yet you can hear it as it scrabbles across the floor as the scratching of the claws on the floor gets faster and faster as it rushes towards Sophia. It's intent on ending Sophia before they finish.
Nope, whack-a-mole.
And right at the moment that Sophia begins to chant in Enochian, which many believe is the most innocent language of all times, is the language of angels. But the truth of the matter is, Enochian is, while may be the language of angels, it's also the language of demons. It's also the language of the dead. It's also the language of those things that have never existed in the physical world. So hearing that once more pour from Sophia, compounded by the whack, whack from Hestia, you need to roll a strength and melee versus that DC to keep it from happening. You need to beat it by 1, otherwise it will get past you. Hearing this as you moving the TVs and trying to ease close enough to be of assistance, what is it that Lucio and Miriam are doing as you watch as Hestia leaps to cosplay as Kevin Costner while Sophia acts as Whitney Houston?
At this point, he says, all right, fuck it with the TV, and he runs back and will use the arms of Ahriman to fight back against these encroaching claws. So that's the only thing he can think of that he can do that would affect these spiritual assaults.
And Miriam just literally throws salt at it.
Alright, so go ahead and roll strength plus Oblivion. And Miriam, would you be so kind to go ahead and roll your... It's all about faith in that particular resort. Your resolve plus your melee. Oh.
Did a thing.
So, to paint the scene so that we can envision what's actually happening. Sophia has retreated from the windows, having scattered the ground up bits of former living entities. Some of them from saints, some of them from criminals, but they're ground up dust, and is in a box that she's used to store all of the such things. It is the dust of the formerly living. It's the ground up bones of humanity. And she's used them, as you've seen being used in Supernatural and various other witch movies and so forth and so on throughout most of fiction. But she uses that instead of salt. She forms a perimeter around the inside of the penthouse. And while forming the perimeter is the first of many steps as part of this ritual, she retreats to the center of this open floor. The floor-to-ceiling windows are vibrating, and these dark, malodorous, semi-solid things are melting through as if the windows themselves are lava, instantaneously melting everything that comes in contact with it. Dark and hairy and clawed and skittering and scuttering. And as this is happening, everyone literally drops what they're doing, having found salt and moving TVs and looking for silver powder, and begins to form a circle around her, to form a protection sphere around Sophia as the sound of death issues from her throat. She pierces herself with a cold iron needle and begins dripping vitae over a candle. Leaping into action, salt is thrown, bits of fire erupting from this globular form, clawed entity reaching across. And while that's happening, as Miriam is throwing and literally pouring her will into this being effective, this stopping or pausing whatever this is, this horror that this is, Hestia is slamming down the mallet as if she literally in this moment is all images that have ever been had of Thor being vainglorious and victorious over any number of enemies. This is Thor against the giants, drinking down the sea, while not as fast as the doors themselves, but very nearly so. This is Ogun with his hammer summoning thunder from on high. This is every image, every version of Thor and those gods that adhere to the hammer as their weapon being made manifest in this small, voluptuous, feminine form. And while that's happening, not more than a few feet away, still holding the shotgun that was most effective against the lupine moments ago, slung over their right shoulder, is Lucio, fist balled, eyes as black as the devil's own soul, with the shadows around them manifesting and reaching out, grabbing, forcing back, slashing, clawing, and rending this globular form. So death versus death is what is happening in between, the salt being thrown, erupting into flame as it touches this blob, as Hestia slams and splatters bits and pieces of this skittering, clawed, globular form that is rushing towards Sophia as the voice of death pours out of her mouth, as she struggles with the real danger that is the flame that she begins to light. And the moment that the candle was lit, there's a screech, a yowling howl, the sort that would happen if you were to light a wolf's tail on fire. The sort of yowling howl that lets you know that something canine is in the most excruciating of pains that it has ever had. And while the shadows do their best to avoid the light of this candle, there's no heat erupting off of it. There's a coldness and a coolness that settles over the space between the candle and every spirit amassing at the edges, barred by the lupine who initially starts sealing the pathway. That chill, acting as if it is Medusa's gaze, freezing them to their spot, turning them to stone, sealing the hole in the world with their very spiritual forms. And there's something about that stillness and that quietude that follows the echoing sound of that canine's yowl that lets you know that for now, you all have a moment of respite. True respite. True calm. True pause in the spinning of the worlds around you. And for the very first time in a very long time, you know that in this moment, you are safe. There are no souls present. There is no power emanating around you. There are no eyes or ears that don't have bodies listening in. For the first time in several months, you are completely devoid of and cut off from the spiritual world.
Holy shit, we made it.
Isn't that what we do?
I mean, yeah, but still, I'm still taken aback.
It is not permanent, but it will hold for now.
All right then. So, we still heading to the other apartment?
I don't know. Would I feel it is safer here now that I've done this than the other apartment, or not?
It's safe from scrutiny. The other apartment. Your penthouse, your haven currently is safe and proof against all spirits, all manifestations. There's no spiritual threat. Your apartment, however, has entered onto the radar. People know that it is a place of power. People, those aware, know that there be monsters here. So is it literally a decision on would you prefer to be 100% pure and safe from all spiritual manifestations, or would you prefer to escape physical scrutiny and potential harassment?
Seems like I'm screwed either way.
It very much is a Sophie's choice. Which of your children, which of your moments of your peace would you prefer to sacrifice? You know that here, nothing spiritual will ever be able to touch you as long as that candle burns, and for several potential weeks after that candle no longer burns. You've created a cone of silence that keeps all but the most dedicated spirits from ever invading this space.
How damaged was the safe room?
It wasn't. It's sealed from inside.
I wasn't sure if I thought you said the door had been ripped off the hinges, but...
Well, he kicked the door off the hinges, but the room itself is perfectly fine.
Well, it's not much of a safe room if it's got a wide open door. She will go to the safe room. She will find the escape hatch where Hestia has thrown things out of the way to try to get it open. And she will punch in the code.
There is only a paranoid person would build a safe room inside of a safe room. Only a paranoid person would build an escape path through a safe room inside of a safe room. And that's exactly what this space is. It is a space that allows you could honestly stay in this space. There's enough space for two of you all to lay side by side on one side of the pathway and be perfectly fine. There's enough food for a living person to survive easily about a week on the shelves. There are 3 rucksacks, which are go bags, on the shelves on one side of the pathway. That pathway leads forward and then down a flight of steps, which would take you pretty much the entire height of the building to the parking garage beneath. Only the paranoid would have such a thing put in place. Only the paranoid would have killed everyone responsible for building it, so that it's not even on the plans for the building. Only the paranoid would destroy the person that had this built, so they can keep the secret for themselves.
Poor Sylvia. We knew each other too well. But that's what I was hoping for, somewhere to shelter, and apparently I found it.
Now, when Sophia headed up the stairs, did anybody follow behind her, or you all giving her time and space to say goodbye to Sylvia?
I think Heste's curiosity would get the better of her, so she'd follow.
Mary would give her space.
I think Lucio would also give space.
Okay. So, Hestia and Sophia, you're standing there in the mind of madness. Because quite literally, only a paranoid person would be paranoid against their paranoia. That's what this room and space is. It is the absolute depths of madness. And you realize that madness is just pragmatism and the insanity of the world in which you live. There are monsters out there in the world. Bad things happen to not only good people, but bad people as well. And if you can't be sure that you are the biggest, baddest, most violent monster, you need ways to escape. You need safe places inside safe places. And that's the world in which you all live.
That's pretty cool. Would we all fit in there, or is it going to be kind of tight? I mean, I don't...
Well, you all can fit in there. That's not the real weight of it. The real weight of it is that there are people like this in the world, and you realize that in this current state of affairs, this is the level of thought and action you all need for the depths of depravity in which you all are now swimming. You have officially, publicly alienated yourselves from your power base within the tower. You have officially and publicly been taken into the warmth and breath of the Hakata. And from the outside, much like you thought a short while ago, the Hakata are a united clan, a bound clan. They work together, they achieve many things, but they don't get in anybody's way. That is, until you realize that in fact they are in everyone's way without ever drawing light to themselves. They operate by the letter of the law and escape notice, and they are able to cheat with the rules. And that is not a clan. The Hakata are a sect unto themselves, with rules and rituals and Machiavellian planning and plotting that would rival the entirety of the Camarilla. And in that world, in this world in which you live, this paranoia is what you need to continue surviving. This paranoia is what you need to get ahead. This adherence to the rules while subverting them every chance you get is what you need to thrive.
I don't think Sophia is at all fazed by this. In fact, she went up here to punch that code in, hoping that it would actually pay off, so...
Speaking of which, having followed, did Hestia see what numbers were put in?
That's a good question. From over Sophia's shoulder, probably not. But you can literally press her on it at any moment because it's clear that she knew it was there. She clearly knew what you were asking after. It's like sliding someone's painting to the side and realizing they have a wall safe. And then you go back and ask them for the codes, their wall safe. And they pretend that they don't have a wall safe. But the moment that you give them a second, they go to the wall safe to make sure that you didn't open the wall safe.
Okay, well, since I've already seen how it opens, you're gonna tell me the birthday now?
Why it is important now.
How do you know I might not just want to get you a present sometime? I'm weird like that.
I'm a bit skeptical. If you would like to get the others, we can move some things in here. We'll be able to shelter here. During the day, it says our best bet is there is not time to go somewhere else.
I might still go raid homegirls downstairs closet though, because I don't think I'm gonna fit into any of your clothes.
No, I'm a good deal taller than you.
Yeah, with the short jokes. She is saying this as she is walking out.
Yeah.
Well, Sophia's a bit on the tall side too, so it's kind of exaggerated.
And the moment Hesha is out of sight, Sophia closes the door, seals everybody else out. No, kidding, 100% kidding. Oh, while that conversation is taking place upstairs, Lucio and Miriam are alone in their mutual togetherness. The candle burning there doesn't trigger the normal, natural fear of the beast. The candle burning doesn't give off heat, and it would be it would normally seem an exaggeration to say that Kendrick can instinctively feel those sources of heat. It is not. Heat is very important to them. Flame, however, is deadly. So there's that understanding of such, and testing the fact that you don't feel any heat from that candle's flame. It is an impossibility that is happening before your very eyes.
Different.
Lucio is not going to pretend he understands Hakata magic at all.
As an artist, Miriam, it is impossible to not notice that Lucio looks more himself than he has for the last 2 nights.
You also look better.
Thank you. I feel much better. As it turns out, lupine blood does wonders to one's complexion.
Good to know. Maybe we should stock up.
Sure. If there's still blood left in the bodies, I'm sure we could salvage something. Might even be able to sell it later. Oh, were you saying that as a joke? I thought you were serious.
Mostly a joke. I'm not sure that I would want to keep any of their essence near where I'm sleeping.
I mean, I'm going to be keeping it for a while, and me, because I already had my fill. Honestly, I'd recommend you get it while you got the chance. Not every day you get to experience a flavor like that.
Miriam will arch an eyebrow.
What, all I'm saying is that they taste really fucking good. Like, unusually good.
It reminds you of the night you, Hestia, Simone, had just left your third course with the professor. You and your fellow student, forget her name, the new girl, ended up at those bars. The bars that cater to kindred while also catering to the general public. The elite quietude of those places, and how the spirit and feeling washed over you. All of your cares are potentially being put down, as your other students had, falling away, leaving nothing but a near orgiastic feeling of ecstasy. That's the underlying core flavor of lupine blood. Not as frenetic, not as kaleidoscopic, but that feeling of being able to live forever happily is what is there in lupine blood. Almost as if what you drank at those bars that evening was not in fact just normal, mortal, human blood, as if it had been laced and mixed and decocted into certain specific flavors. And as that thought finally bubbles up from the dark recesses of your mind, and you and Miriam share a raised eyebrow looking at each other, because it's explaining that you have educated your palate to the point of being able to pick out the subtle permutations inherent in various blood types and persons who provided them is more than a mouthful. It's not something easily related. It's like being a foodie surrounded by people who've only ever eaten at Crystals or who've only ever had White Castles. And Hestia suddenly there, coming down the steps.
Feeling the strange standoffish tension. She just kind of looks at between them. So there was a safe room within the safe room with a back door and some supplies. We're gonna stay there so that we can lock that and then probably just head downstairs and out tomorrow evening when we need to leave. But I'm going to get clothes because I don't have any clothes and none of Sophia's will fit me. I think you might need some clothes too, pointing up and down at Lucio. We can go see what the weird swinger couple has in their closet that might fit you if you want, before we come back here and bed down for the night.
Probably a
Sure.
good idea.
I'm not a fan of this outfit as it is.
Look, we did the best we can. Ain't nobody tell you to go fucking jump running through the sun and getting burnt up, now did we?
But here's the thing. When approximating that in Lucio's mind, yeah, it was hot, but that's because the sun was coming up and he hadn't seen it in over 2 years. but nothing began to burn or be affected by the sun until he stopped moving. He walked in the fullness of the sun, not so much as a hint of smoke emanating from him, not so much as even a suntan beginning to take place on any portion of him. He was temporarily invulnerable. And he still hasn't related that to anyone. And the only person that witnessed it is no longer in the land of the living.
And for right now, he's not going to tell anyone because he's not quite sure what the hell happened.
So you all head downstairs to the neighbors. Lucio, Hester, you guys have a opportunity, if you would like, as you all entered into the neighbor's place. And there's various kente cloths in black and white hanging from the wall. There's a huge library of the great romantic poets of the age, all the way to present. There's a wall of books, and you all have an opportunity, if you would like, to roll wits plus insight.
Sure.
Sophie, Miriam, you don't have to roll. And the reason why you don't have to roll is because there's certain iconography that stands out as members of the Bahari. There are certain clues, like the upside down pineapples for swingers in Florida, that stand out to you as definitive, yes, oh fuck yes. Because here, these people, this couple, were very much involved in every facet of pursuing the flesh as they could be, including having joined the Baham.
Did wits and what?
Oh, well, that's
Insight.
fascinating. Miriam will go tinker with a flower arrangement.
Simone kept a network of people who engaged in various facets of quick dating to not dating to instant hookups. There are certain connective tissue amongst all of his playthings. You see him in every small detail, from the actual full-fledged honest kente cloth, not the American McDonaldized version that you've seen by most senators, but actual black and white kente cloth, each pattern signifying a different tribe, to the choice in books, the romantics of the recent age, to the fact that everything's color coordinated and planned out as if it's designed to draw the eye from the front door towards the bedroom. And as you are taking those details in about this particular group of people, you watch as Miriam heads over to one of the two flower arrangements in the foyer and begins moving them about a bit, almost as if she's rearranging a message, as if she's composing a telegram. Not that, Lucia would know what a telegram is, or the effort involved in actually composing one accurately, but Hestia would. And while it's a lost art, it's no longer part of the common parlance, it very much is a coded language that Hestia has not forgotten.
especially with it having to do with flowers, seeing as how that was how she was communicating with who she thought was Maria.
There is a flower. There is a language of flowers. And while the phrasing and accent is exactly the same as the Bahari language that is hidden in symbology and iconography, it is close enough that you understand what she's doing.
Who are you expecting to find that message?
Well, assuming that no one burns down the place, I'm sure there will be some people wondering where their playthings are.
Probably not. Because if I'm right about whose playthings these two were, he's dead.
Miriam just doesn't even look surprised at this point.
Lucio, she looks towards Lucio and says, Simone. And then heads towards the closet.
Wait, what? How do you figure that?
She points to the kente cloth. He was of African descent, directly African descent. Not this mixed and muddled version that we know today as African American. He was legitimately from there, and I had 10 years to get to know him, and it just screams Simone to me, looking around. Simone, but their taste blended in, so yeah.
I see. I suppose I'll have to trust your judgment on this one.
But what I'm guessing with Miriam's involvement is they were of her cult peoples. They met the end they would have wanted, sort of.
Basically.
Though I'm not exactly sure how Sophia killed them. So it might not have been as fun as they would have hoped for.
Especially the whole coming back as zombies part.
Probably not on their radar, no.
Speaking of not on their radar, not as fun as you would think, as Sophia settles into the escape room within the safe room, it is impossible to look at how well appointed and ordered this all is. It is impossible to look at that obsessive need to have what you need when you need it and not think of Silvio. It is impossible to not feel his arms about you. It is impossible to not feel him there acting as shield and sword against the world. Your tool, your weapon, your protector. And while you have a few moments alone, knowing that you were a few feet from this even more expressive internality of his adoration of you carries its own weight. The fact that you knew or respected, only adding to that immediate connection of being alone in this darkened space that is very much a symbiosis of his thoughts and feelings.
That will be fairly soul crushing for her in the moment, considering everything that has happened this shitty night. However, she must remain the picture of decorum and strength and composure. Nothing bothers her.
Nothing breaks through externally. There's always the wounds that we can't see that always heal incorrectly. There's always the small traumas and slings and arrows of this outrageous life and existence that we live that causes the most damage. It's the invisible blade that hurts the most. And in preparation of what tomorrow will be, it will literally be a race from here to there to meet your peer, your better, your mother, your fountainhead for all that you are, the potential that people saw in you, and the promise of your service. To say that there's conflicted, unresolved feelings there would be the most aggrandizing point of fact possible. But in this moment, in this shared space between you and Silvio and all that has come before, the reality of who you are going to meet, of who you are going to do battle with, because that's literally what every meeting of Hakata of a similar rank is. Because while from the outside you all are united, and there are certain things that you will not do to one another directly, the only way to assure your view changes is to make sure that you kill the lead dog and force them into service to your will and your whim for the rest of eternity. It's the fundamental basis for how the family has been able to get ahead. It's a fundamental basis for how the family assures that only the strongest of them survive and are able to add to the strength of the family. Your mother's pulling rank here. Your success in deposing the Castiglione. Your success in bringing at least the image of the city closer in line with where the Hakata want you all to be. Your nearness to the God machine, the hub of it, all makes you a threat to every other Hakata of a similar rank. Your fire has to be doused or turned to their use. And that's what this is about. Using your success as either a springboard or as something that must be snuffed out. And with that thought in mind, with Hestia, Lucio, and Miriam ciphering and cycling through clothing that costs more than most of their vehicles, with Sophia settling on the unspoken truth as to behind their reason for this meeting, this call, this summons, and knowing that just because they have survived the impossible doesn't mean that they are out of the fire yet. We draw to a close, and I thank you all for a lovely episode. I look forward to seeing you all next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
We live!
For now.
Don't worry, Sophia. If we can beat up